Assalamu alaikum. If you love Islamic history, motivation, and true guidance, then don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. Jazakallah khair.
At that time, Timur, and we cannot yet call him Tamerlane, was a young nobleman, unemployed and idle. But even in idleness, he was not without vigor or purpose. His inactivity was as intense and charged as any labor. He was broad-shouldered and strong, his body healthy and resilient. His frame carried a chest like a warrior's, with thick arms and solid legs. His head was large, balanced gracefully atop his neck, a commanding presence even in stillness. His forehead was broad, and his eyes, large, dark, and deep, moved slowly within their sockets, like silent observers of a world not yet ready for his will. When he looked at someone, he looked directly, with unshaken gaze. His cheekbones were high and set wide apart, lending his face a rugged, sculpted dignity. Like the men of his tribe, his mouth was wide, a feature that suggested a temperament quick to feel and respond to the world around him. He spoke little. His voice was deep and steady. There was no hint of sarcasm or humor in his nature. It is said, in his entire life, he never once laughed at a joke. A glimpse of the young Timur. One brief glimpse of Timur in his youth might appear like this. A vast open plain stretched beneath a cloudless sky. Timur, mounted on horseback, rode at full gallop with his companions, all in pursuit of a fleeing deer. The earth trembled beneath the thundering hooves. Suddenly, a dry ravine appeared ahead, wide and deep. Danger was instant. Timur tried to pull the reins, but the speed was too great. Instinct took over. He steadied himself in the saddle, aimed, and urged the horse forward. The beast leapt, soaring, but the gap was too great. It barely made the far edge. Its front legs landed safely, but the hind legs faltered and slipped. In that critical moment, Timur pulled his feet from the stirrups and leapt, landing cleanly at a distance. The horse collapsed behind him, useless now. Without a moment of panic, Timur circled back out of the ravine, joined his comrades, and mounted a fresh steed. Into darkness. By now, the light was fading. The riders turned toward home. But nightfall was swift, and with it came rain and thickening darkness. The wind howled over the rocky plains. Visibility vanished. The path was lost. The cold pierced like knives, and they wandered, disoriented. Then, in the distance, they saw 3 dark mounds, still and silent, like ancient domed tents rising from the stone.
His companions said, "They're just sand dunes." But Timur, ever the seeker, was not convinced. He tightened the reins around the horse's neck and then gripped its
thick mane with force. The horse lifted its head, neighed sharply, and responded. Without hesitation, Timur rode toward the dark mounds. Moments passed. A faint glow appeared in the distance. What had seemed like shapeless black heaps under the rain now took form. Tents, made of black felt, rising humbly against the storm. As they approached, dogs sprang from the shadows, barking fiercely. The people within the tents, thinking they were under attack by raiders, rushed out, armed with swords and spears, ready to defend their homes. But Timur raised his voice and called out, "People of the tents, do not be afraid. I am the son of Amir Timur." At the mention of that name, weapons fell from hands. The tension dissolved. The hosts turned into warm, eager caretakers. Cauldrons were set upon fires. Hot broth began to boil. They found a dry patch within the tents and laid out mattresses for their guests to rest. But the bedding was infested with bedbugs, and Timur, unable to sleep, rose quietly and went to sit beside the fire. There, under the stormy night sky, he stirred the flames and began to tell stories, tales from the steppes, the mountains, and the tribes. One by one, the tent-dwellers emerged, gathering around him in silence, listening. And so the night passed. By dawn, the rain had ceased, and a cold calm settled over the plains. That single night, simple yet unforgettable, stayed with Timur for years. And years later, when he became the master of lands and armies, he sent generous gifts and honors to the families of the Black Tents, in memory of a stormy night and a warm fire. A nomad among nomads. In those early Islamic days, hospitality was not a courtesy, it was an obligation, a sacred duty. And among the Tartar tribes, there was no greater virtue than welcoming a traveler.
Timur himself was no stranger to the road. From Samarkand to Khorasan, there was hardly a single camp or courtyard where he was not welcome.
With only a handful of close companions, he would journey across treacherous mountain trails and along the edges of great deserts, covering 1,000 miles in just 15 days. His provisions were few: a light bow, a sword, and unshakable resolve. Wherever caravans stopped, in way stations or mountain passes, he passed through. The Arabs would greet him, curious, and upon
Learning he was the son of a noble chief, they treated his presence as an honor.
in the gold-washing valleys, where mountain folk panned river sands for flecks of gold, they would speak freely to him, sharing stories of their horses, their tribal wars, and the women of rival clans. On the way, Timur would often visit the strongholds of Tatar chieftains, playing chess in their halls, learning their minds, mastering their moves. A call from the east. It was among these tribal leaders, these men of stone and saddle, that one day a voice rose. "O Timur, Amir Timur summons you to the court of Shah Sarai." Timur had been summoned. Though young and without a crown, he was not without concern, particularly for what little remained of his father's inheritance. He saw not as luxury, but as responsibility. What flocks remained, he arranged into proper herds and entrusted them to loyal shepherds. Their compensation was simple: 1 ewe, quarter of the milk and produce of the day. The same system applied to the care of his goats, horses, and camels. Practical, thoughtful, and fair. Beyond these humble possessions, no record survives of any vast property or treasure. Among the horses, he selected the fastest and the strongest, keeping them now by his side. A single servant, a boy born in household, followed him faithfully. With this modest company and bare provisions, Timur set out from the steppes, weaving through the rugged mountain paths, heading south toward the river Amu. A night unlike any other. Perhaps in the days of Norman England, a young noble squire might have ridden out in a similar fashion to offer his sword in service to a king. But there would have been differences. That English squire would not have worn coarse, thick woolen socks upon cracked bare feet. His head would not have been crowned by a tall, white felt cap twisted from raw nomadic cloth. Around his neck he would not have worn half sleeves sewn from horsehide.
nor would he have wrapped a heavy leather belt around his waist, one adorned with silver and turquoise stones. And most of all, the English squire would not have known the loneliness Timur bore.
His mother was dead. His father, long since retired to a distant Khanqa, a man of mysticism and solitude. And his relatives? Ever sharpening their daggers, ready to strike, bound in hostility rather than kinship. A prince without a throne. So Timur left his homeland, not as a prince in glory, but as a wanderer of the world, carrying only his courage and his weapons. He joined battles not commanded by kings, fought in skirmishes with no banners, and bled beside warriors who knew no loyalty but valor. In that uncertain time, the powerful Amir Kazgan once declared, "Let us put aside the matters of faith, and remember, we are all brothers."
All eyes turned toward Timur. Some watched his horsemanship. Others observed his skill with the sword, in duels where even the
smallest mistake meant death. He was the son of the Amir Taragai, chieftain of the Barlas tribe, and yet he stood not with privilege, but with purpose.
The camp at Saz Sarai. At Saz Sarai, thousands of Tatar warriors had gathered. 2,000 horsemen, noble-born youths, battle-hardened emirs, wild sons of the steppe, had pitched their camps deep within the forested lands. Among them were many who watched Timur closely. He had not yet risen, but the earth already trembled beneath his shadow.
There was not a single person among the thousands who could teach Timur a lesson. Timur needed no guide or instructor. He did what he deemed necessary on his own, and he alone decided what had to be done.
One day, a rider galloped into the military camp and brought urgent news. Raiders had crossed the border and were driving off captured horses. As soon as Kargun heard this, he saw Timur, this living legacy of the Barlas clan, and ordered him to take a group of brave warriors, even younger than himself, and retrieve the stolen horses from the bandits. Timur, who was now among the courtiers of Kazanjan, rose at once and departed to carry out the command. The mission was presented by the Emir in a way that thrilled Timur's heart. Riding fast horses and chasing down bandits like a storm from dawn until midday, what could be a better pastime for Timur? These raiders turned out to be Iranians who had crossed from the west. They had looted a large amount of travelers' belongings and loaded the stolen goods onto the captured horses. Upon seeing the Tatars approach, the bandits divided into two groups. One, guarding the loaded horses, moved away, while the other came forward to face Timur in battle. One of Timur's companions suggested attacking the group carrying the goods first, but Timur responded firmly, "No, if we defeat, the others will flee on their own, abandoning the loot to save their lives." A fierce clash followed. Swords clashed in close combat. But the Iranian bandits had already realized that besting the Tatars was nearly impossible. Soon they scattered and fled. A fierce clash followed. Swords clashed in close combat. But the Iranian bandits had already realized that besting the Tatars was nearly impossible. Soon they scattered and fled. Impressed by his success, Kazgan praised Timur's valor and gifted him his personal command baton as a reward. From that day on, Amir Kazgan grew deeply fond of Timur, son of Taragai, and showered him with increasing affection and favor. One day, he said to Timur, "You are from the noble lineage of the Gur Khan, Gurganeali, but your nature is truly Chinggis Khani." "No, you were not born yet when this happened," said Amir Kazgan after a pause. It was long before your time that your ancestor, Kujuli Khan, and the
forefather of Chinggis Khan, Kabul Khan, entered into a solemn pact. According to the terms of that agreement, military command would remain with the descendants of Kajuli Khan, while sovereignty, the title of Khan, would rest with the lineage of Kabul Khan. This covenant was inscribed upon a tablet of steel and preserved in the archives of the House of Chinggis. This entire episode, Kazgan continued, was recounted to me by your father, Taragai, and every word he spoke was the truth.
After a moment of thoughtful silence, Amir Kazgan declared, "My way has always been the same, never to shy away from the path of war and struggle. I have always ridden forth into the arena of battle with unwavering resolve. So I say to you all, stand with us. Our name carries greatness, and this is the only path. There is no other."
Timur was well aware of this reality. He knew the history of the mighty Chagatai Khan, the son of Chinggis Khan, who once ruled over the vast northern expanse of the earth. South of that territory lay the land of the Afghans and the great mountain ranges that formed the spine of the Takht-e-Suleiman, lands that were once part of the Chagatai dominion.
But after 100 years, the grip of the Chagatai rulers on the territories of their ancestors had weakened. Various Tartar tribal leaders had asserted independence
in their respective provinces, and the Khans of the Chagatai line had withdrawn northward, indulging in hunts, feasts, and idle pleasures. And now, matters had come to such a point that these very Chagatai princes had returned near Shah Saz, not as rulers, but as looters under the pretense of quelling a rebellion. It was from among these very Chagatai Khans that Kazgan had once been appointed as Amir and Commander-in-Chief. He established his seat of power in Samarkand. But the constant interference and arrogant expeditions of the Chagatai nobles soon became intolerable to him.
Eventually, Amir Kazgan found the courage to rise in open rebellion against the reigning Khan of the time, Ghazan Khan. The conflict
that followed was fierce and prolonged, a brutal war that dragged on for many days. In the end, the Khan was slain.
With his fall, Kazgan seized authority over the province of Samarkand, the Barlas tribe, and the provinces of several other Tatar Aluses. To legitimize his position,
accordance with Yasa, the law of Chinggis Khan, and to satisfy the expectations of the military, who had already foreseen Kazgan assuming leadership, a Kurultai, tribal council, was convened.
There, a man of Chinggisid descent was ceremonially chosen to serve as Khan of Samarkand, giving the appearance of tradition upheld. But in truth, this Khan was nothing more than a puppet in the hands of Khosran. His safety and livelihood were entirely dependent upon the Amir. This new Khan was mild-mannered and noble by nature, but indifferent to matters of state and governance. As a result of this political arrangement, Kazgan earned the title of Shah Saz, the maker of kings. Like Timur, Kazgan did not come from any exalted or aristocratic background, nor was he of Chinggisid blood, yet he possessed boldness of spirit. He formed strategic alliances with some of the most powerful nobles of the Uluses. He was known for his sense of justice. Justice and fairness, and the unruly Tatar tribes who once knew no discipline began to respect his authority. Kazgan had lost the sight in one eye due to an arrow wound. After Kazgan, his successful rebellion, he turned his attention to the pursuits of hunting and sport. But now, once again, a time of great need was approaching. When the trumpet of battle sounded, he would rise without hesitation.
He had no lasting faith in the Tatar tribes, for he believed they might not remain his allies in times of peril. Timur, however, was trusted, expected never to falter when dark hours came. Aside from Timur, the rest of the nobles in Kazgan's court were mostly self-serving, thinking only of their personal gain and loss. They paid tribute to the nominal Chinggis Khan placed on the throne of Syria Khanate and outwardly pledged loyalty, but many of them had also supported Kazgan's rebellion. Some of these emirs were powerful enough to muster 10,000 warriors under their own banners at a moment's notice. It was only Kazgan's sheer wisdom and capability that allowed him to retain the reins of power. Amir Kazgan recognized that the brave Tatar warriors held Timur in high regard. Among the Tatar tribes, bravery and valor earned one true respect. Those who were seasoned in war and famed for their courage were considered the true warriors. These were men of towering strength and fierce nature who marched into battle. Timur, son of Taragai, earned his rightful place among these warriors. He was indeed worthy of such honor. It was with these very warriors that Timur launched sudden raids against his enemies. These fearless and bold warriors were close companions of Amir Kazgan. They would sit near him and recount tales of their bravery and manly exploits. Timur's temperament had a natural inclination toward risking his life for the thrill of it, and even more remarkably, in the gravest moments of danger, he remained silent and composed. His face would show deep contemplation, as though his mind were occupied with some complex strategy. The brave men of the nation used to say that Timur's spirit was forged for the battlefield. His body was strong and enduring. Long journeys on horseback and sleepless nights were nothing to him. He possessed all the qualities of leadership and command. He aspired to be a leader and guide. So immense was his strength that he relied solely on his own abilities for every endeavor. One day, Timur submitted a request to Amir Kazgan. He asked that the leadership of the Barlas tribe, which was scattered across the region, be entrusted to him. Kazgan did not particularly favor the request, yet he replied gently, "Why are you so anxious?